Fat City is a book about men who fight in late 50s Stockton, California. It is the archetype for every song, written by Tom Waits. Better than food, man. Good morning, how you guys doing? Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I'm your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. Hope you're doing very well. Check this out. My girlfriend turned me on to this. This is lemon, apple cider vinegar, sparkling water, and cayenne pepper. It will clear you out. Yeah, it's not messing around, for sure. Hope you guys are doing very well. It's kind of foggy and rainy. I kind of like it because, you know, that's home for me. That's what I'm used to back up in Oregon. This review is dedicated to longtime Portuguese fan Adriano, who boxes a little bit himself. Published in 1969, it took him 4 years and was the only novel Gardner wrote. Look at this cover. I mean, this is really what sold me. I'd never heard of him, never heard of any of it. It was also adapted into a film by John Huston that I never saw. Because I was more interested in reading this first. But I just I spotted this in Powell's Books, and I just thought this cover was so dope. So yeah, paid off. I'm gonna read you a little bit. This is very fun to read out loud. Stripped of the gloves, Ernie stood on the gym floor, panting and nodding, while Ruben squared off with his belly forward and hat brim up, moved his small hands and feet in quick and graceful demonstrations. You got a good left. Understand what I mean? Step in with that jab. Understand what I mean? Get your body behind it. Bing! Understand what I mean? You hit him with that jab, his head's going back. So you step in. Understand what I mean? Hit him again. Throw the right. Bing! Relax. Keep moving. Lay it in there. Bing! Bing! Understand what I mean? Bing! Understand what I mean? Keep it out there working for you. Then feint the left. Throw the right. Bing! Understand what I mean? Jab and feint. You keep him off balance. Feinting. You make your openings and step in. Bing, bing, wah! Understand what I mean? In the flooded shower room, Ernie was addressed by a small Mexican standing motionless under the other nozzle. How's the ass up here? Not good. Where are you from? L.A. How's the ass down there? Good. Soapless, the two hunched under the hissing spray. Are the guys tough in this town? Not so tough. How about down there? Tough. Just get here? Yeah, I was in a bar yesterday. This guy's calling everybody a son of a bitch, so I go out and wait for him. He came out and I asked, did that include me? Says, yeah. So I got him. I mean, I just come to town. Some welcome. I don't know. Trouble just seems to come looking for me. Then the man began to sing, repeating a single phrase, his voice rising from bass moans and bellows to falsetto wails. Earth angel, will you be mine? The song went on in the locker room, the singer as he put on his clothes, shifting to an interlude of improvisation. Baby, oh, baby, I want you. While naked figures walked to and from the showers and steam drifted through the doorway. Drawing on his pants, Ernie, bruised, fatigued, and elated, felt he had joined the company of men. And that sums it up, really. This is a book for fans of the usual American, gritty, kind of beat-oriented male suspects. Bukowski, Hemingway, McCarthy, maybe even some Bolaño, though he was Chilean. If you like none of these authors, then this is not for you. If you like crime fiction, which I've unfortunately neglected on this channel, this might be right up your alley. Fat City is another term for the proverbial good life that nobody really gets, but that we all fight for. It's also a nickname for Stockton, California, which also used to go along the name of Mudville. Not only does Gardner systematically cut all excess, trim all writing fat without mercy, but within those last few remaining notes, that lean muscle of the text, that rhythm really beats, man. These back and forths between the characters punch, pun intended. Recalling how Bukowski said that, good writing sentences need to go bim, 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 bim. I think of that passage I read out loud, the guy was actually saying that when he was punching the guy, bim, bim. Yeah, it needs to punch. It needs to punch. So everything is cut. It's as lean as it can be, like a great boxer. My girlfriend and I were discussing this yesterday, and I decided that, for me, what constitutes great writing is entirely dependent on intent and context. For example, we just had the Proust review a couple weeks back. Absolutely different intent, radically different context. And hence a radically different style, floral and meandering, kind of slipstream, and flooded with all kinds of visual, evocative metaphor. That takes place in the circles of the early 20th century French bourgeoisie. Where are we now? This takes place in the lower class bars and gyms of Stockton, California in the 50s. Also very evocative. Totally different intent. Also great writing. This is the territory of hard working class men and the women who love them. Or hate them but still find themselves in love with them. It's a deceptively simple story about a boxer named Billy Tully. A guy who was on top, lost a fight, became an alcoholic, and you know the rest. One day in the gym, he meets this young, frustrated guy in his 20s named Ernie Munger. The first thing they do, as a way of communicating, or saying like, nice to meet you, kind of, is fight. So Billy Tully is an old pro, kind of retired, out of shape, and Ernie Munger is this young kid who's never fought before. And Tully even says, he's like, we'll just fool around easy. I won't hit you hard, you know. Suddenly, this kid is all over him, moves really fast, and Tully, the former pro, pulls a muscle, and that ends the fight. So Tully's interest in his former career is revitalized through this kid. It's as if an older version of a man is fighting the younger version of himself. And this comes up in many reviews of Fat City. Catherine Dunn, the author of Geek Love, wrote in an article on Slate, the novel weaves the stories of Billy Tully and Ernie Munger as though the two were different points on the same time continuum. Ernie is Tully's past, Tully is Ernie's future. Mistakes are made, and they are. The writing penetrates into the limits of the men's comprehension. Their insecurities, the desires, and the distractions, and their misperceptions, and their hopes, and their indomitable, unwavering desire to keep fighting. If it's not the fight in the ring, then it's the fight at home, or it's the fight in the bar. It's the fight against the world. It's the fight at the job. The fight in the onion field, laboring away, boiling in the Californian sun. The fight to keep shreds of dignity and freedom. At one point or another, we all fight the right fights and the wrong fights. Often the good fight becomes the wrong fight. This is a story about good fighters fighting the wrong fights. Of course, you have a lot of the classic masculine tropes. However, what I love about Fat City is the insightful, tactile descriptions that leave you all but smelling and tasting the stale sweat in the shitty, crumbling YMCA in Stockton. What would be otherwise neutral or colorless environments are suddenly all too vividly brought to life. So much so that it's disgusting and confrontational and uncomfortable. Very base. Sure, like you heard, the short prose kind of give off the feeling of being like hard-boiled. But there's something much, much more than just bravado going on here. A truly honest, timeless sadness and vulnerability in the characters. Even the antagonists in their history of strife, that is empathetic to the many, 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 many men who have fallen off the wagon and gotten lost in self-destruction, or just plain lost. Literally in the ending, where Ernie gets kicked out of this car that picked him up in the middle of the desert. But it treats the antagonists as other men, you know, they could just as easily be the protagonists. The antagonist is really just life, right? It's just the fight, the cycle. It's not difficult, for me at least, to imagine waking up one day and realizing that your life is mostly over and the best parts are now behind you. A very real feeling that I think we're all going to go through, men and women. A physical and mental exhaustion that corrodes the mind and soul and risks this really deep strain of cynicism or pessimism where you're trying to blame the world for your own cowardice, where you're trying to pin the blame on anybody but yourself. And Fat City reveals the author's belief that indeed this cycle is just going to start over again. The cycle of lost and desperate fighting men. They call it a great American novel. Why is that? Because if America had a smell, Fat City reeks of it. The landscape of this country, of this culture. Picture the crossroads, right? Lonely souls in vast, forgotten landscapes. The American dream. The elusive American dream. Masculinity, violence as catharsis, struggle, failure, desperation. Men condemned by others and condemning themselves to a laborious mental and physical existence. The inability to communicate and the contempt for weakness, especially in yourself. Dissatisfaction and yearning and settling in a relationship and feeling as though your life is suddenly over, the next big event being death. That was one of the most poignant moments in the book for me, was when this guy, the younger boxer, Ernie Munger, he marries this girl and he starts panicking because he feels that the only other significant life event to follow is death. Gardner's description of physical pain through prose almost physically hurts to read, right? It's that good. And it's good. It's a good thing. This morning as I wrote this, I heard the yells and sometimes the screams of the homeless here in LA. Living here, you come to reckon with the true possibilities of bad luck or addiction or just bad decisions, mental illness, alcoholism, or whatever combination thereof on a daily basis. It's always around you. I'm reminded daily of how bad it can get if you don't pay attention. Gardner paid close attention and seemed to know. If he's never been there himself, then he's known people in his life who have descended pretty far down. In Fat City is one of the greatest books I've read about never giving up. Even when confronting abysmal circumstances, they're compelled to keep fighting. If that's not American, I have no idea what is. I made a little Spotify playlist to go along with this. You can check it out in the description box. If you want to help out the show on Patreon, you can get access to my private vlog where I give you a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes updates with what's going on with Better Than Food and otherwise. Lemons are actually a superfood. Did you know that? I had no idea. And then recently I just found out, oh man, it's like the Holy Grail, and they're really easy to put in your water. So, I got on that track. I should try some boxing too. Anybody out there box? You should give me some tips. Like how to get into that. I know my longtime fan Adriano boxes. He would probably have some tips, but yeah, I don't know if I could do it. This nose, just it's gonna be the first thing to go. It already looks broken. It doesn't matter. Thank you to everybody who has already helped out the show. Please subscribe. I hope you guys are all doing well. Always remember, life is far too short to read bullshit, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Ciao!